Hey guys, we are back with video 16 in this series. DGRO is the ETF we are looking at today. The ETF is owned by iShares. What we do in this series is take a look at the ETFs in question, try to determine how much of the ETF we need to be owning to hit $1,000 a month paid to us from that ETF in dividends. If you don't see an ETF on this list, head down into the comments and let me know what ETF you'd like to see analyzed in this way. What we do in this series is we take an ETF, go to their webpage, try to determine what they are doing to be able to reach those dividend yielding numbers, head over to Seeking Alpha, and we try to determine what a good solid dividend yield percentage would be to be able to input that number into our calculator to see what type of volumes that we need to own of that ETF to hit $1,000 a month. And then we compare that ETF with the S&P 500 index. And this is the calculator we use to be able to determine how much of that fund we need to own to hit $1,000 a month. But more on that later. Coming over to DGRO's webpage, it is iShares Core Dividend Growth ETF. This ETF is very similar to VIG or Vanguard's Dividend Appreciation ETF. So DGRO offers a low cost exposure to US stocks focused on dividend growth. They access companies that have a history of sustained dividend growth and that are broadly diversified across industries. They are suggesting that you use it at the core of your portfolio to seek income. This ETF seeks to track the investment results of an index composed of U.S. equities with a history of consistently growing dividends. And over on Robinhood, just to take a peek at what is inside this ETF, there are about 420 holdings, with the top 3 sectors being in financials, technology, and healthcare. The top 5 stocks being these as you see on the screen, with not much weight toward the top, where the top percent is around 3%, or the top stock is around 3% of the total fund, and the second and third are very close behind. None of these are actually pulling very far in front. So let's take a peek at each of these 5 top holdings to try to see what type of yields that DGRO is invested in. With Apple, you are looking at about a 0.5% dividend yield. With Microsoft, a 0.9% dividend yield. Johnson & Johnson, around 2.6% dividend yield. JP Morgan, a 3.36%. And Procter & Gamble, 2.55%. So you're ranging anywhere from 0.5% almost all the way up to 4%. So that's a pretty wide spread. So what is this ETF actually paying in its dividend yield? Well, they are charging you 0.08% to be able to put this ETF together and manage it, and then they're paying you back 2.08%. That is the 12-month trailing yield figure. But let's take a look at the dividend history to see if there's any variances or anomalies over the course of the history of the fund. So it appears that the fund started paying a dividend around September of 2014, and you can see that in the max view it has grown up and to the right pretty much consistently, as did VIG, the other dividend grower ETF. So taking a look at the daily chart for dividend yield, the daily dividend yield, you can see it's dipped slightly below 2%. And then as the share price drastically dropped during the coronavirus pandemic, you can see that it peaked around 3.32, but that's kind of an artificial number. So its upper and lower bands are somewhere between 2.5% and 2%. So for this video, let's choose 2.25%. Let's head over to the calculator and put these numbers in the calculator. So for DGRO, type that in. What comes up is iShares Core Dividend Growth ETF. We said we were going to use 2.25%. Expense ratio, as we saw in Seeking Alpha, was 0.08%. And these numbers right here, we're not really going to focus on them for this video, but if you'd like to, head over to Patreon. You can purchase this calculator, play around with these growth and contribution numbers, compare 2 different portfolios, ETFs, stocks, or securities side by side, what type of portfolio value you would get with these growth and contribution numbers, what type of income you could expect to receive over the course of 10 years with your inputs, and a few long-term graphs as well. You also get to take a peek at the 1, 2, 3, 5, and 10-year price performance for the two ETFs in question. So for instance, DGRO has not been around for more than 10 years, so this is left blank or not applicable. And over the course of 5 years, DGRO is around 9% per year, and SPY is around 10.29% per year. And again, this is just the price performance. But this box right here is what we are actually looking for. DGRO, you'd need a little over $500,000 to hit that $1,000 a month, and around $2.6 million to hit $5,000 a month. So let's go ahead and compare DGRO with an S&P 500 index fund, with that fund being SPY. We're going to do that over on Portfolio Visualizer. Again, with $500,000, we're going to take a peek at reinvesting dividends and not reinvesting dividends. And if we come down to the graph here, you can see that DGRO tracks the S&P 500 very closely. If you take a look at the initial $500,000 investment from this time period of June 2014, you can see over this time period, DGRO has outperformed SPY only slightly, with around 11.03% growth per year for DGRO and 10.98% growth for SPY, with the ending balance in about 9 years, 8 to 9 years, from $500,000 to about $1.2 million. Let's take a look at what it would look like without reinvesting the dividends. And without reinvesting that 2.25% dividend yield number, DGRO does slightly underperform the SPY. But what type of dividend yields would you be getting, or what type of income would you be receiving? And DGRO has slightly outperformed SPY over the course of the last 8 to 9 years. So that is it for DGRO. You would need to own around $530,000 worth of DGRO to hit $1,000 a month. If you want to see another ETF analyzed in this way, head down into the comments and I will add the ETF to our comment suggested section. And if you would like access to this calculator, head over to Patreon and you can access it there. And with that, thanks for watching.